Not be aware that our supply teachers are on 0 hours contracts.
Right.
So my question is, what policies would you support to address the issues faced by essential workers on 0 hours contracts, such as supply teachers, who are going to be needed over the winter if staff have to stay at home due to COVID regulations? The context of that is lots of them lost a lot of work during the pandemic, and a lot of them need the income and rely on it, and a lot of them are experienced.
Many of them haven't been, are many of them local, or many of them have been brought over?
The supply teachers tend to be local.
They tend to be local, yeah. So there is some support at home. Not that you should be relying on it, because obviously I don't think 0 hours contracts are a great idea anyway. So there should at least, I would imagine, be some sort of minimum retainer where we could at least have some income to rely on. Obviously the amount of all that is going to have to be dependent on actual resources. Luckily we are in a good place in terms of controlling COVID, and we've got a good test and trace system at the moment, so we've got tight border control, so I would imagine that we may be able to avoid second wave and second lockdown. But again, yes, if we may have to reinstate some provision for workers who are not financially supported during the lockdown period. So that may take, there are various schemes. I mean, there was the furlough type scheme. Germany has a worker subsidy scheme. So all sorts of schemes would have to be looked at. But again, it's going to have to come down to resources. But yeah, I think we should be moving away from 0 hours contracts for that kind of work.
And the next question, as I said.
My name is Ken Lloyd. I'm the convener for the Royal College of Nursing in Guernsey. We identified a number of key asks, and we put that in a manifesto. They covered things like terms and conditions and pay, and appointing a chief nurse, and proper funding for strategic health services, and a regulatory framework committing to that. And our question is, if successful in your election as a deputy, how would you support Guernsey nurses to achieve pay parity in their wider manifesto in the next 4-year term of the States of Deliberation?
I think pay parity is going to be very difficult because of the financial pressures. I mean, personally, I'm sympathetic because of the level and the skills and the levels that you're working at, and of course the essential nature of nursing to the community, to the health service. But unfortunately it comes at the same time as multiple other financing demands. So if pay parity is to be progressed, I think it would probably have to go in stages, and the claim might have to be looked at in certain elements of modules or sections at a time.
So a timeline.
I think
said in the 4-year term of the States of Deliberation.
Well, yes. I mean, one of the things that could be addressed, I think, is the appointment of the chief nurse, because that just seems to be it just seems to be a rational.
We agree with that.
Point.
We agree with that one. But the pay inequality is decades old.
Yes,
I mean, we need
that.
Guernsey nurses. I mean, jurisdictions around the world are going to face huge challenges to sort of retain their health staff, and everybody's woken up to the importance of health services over the last 12 months.
A balancing act.
So it's already difficult recruiting nurses. It's going to be even more difficult in Guernsey. How do you meet that challenge?
Exactly. I think we have problems with cost of living. That's the source of a lot of the problems.
Sorry, I'm pushing you here because
of course.
I mean, my question is, can Guernsey afford not to? I mean, I think that's the question. Across the water in Jersey, nurses start at 41,000. Even with the enforced, after a year it goes to 43. After the imposed 5 and 5 settlement, Guernsey nurses start at 29,000.
And we're not after parity with Jersey, we're just after parity with local like-for-like workers. Yeah, that's very important.
I think we should be moving towards that. It's just.
Would you be willing to take an amendment or take a request or ask a written question about it to force it through in the next 4 years?
I think that would depend Again, I think we're going to have to look at finances as to how that's...
Again, that refers back to can we afford not to?
I know, I appreciate that.
UK is going to lose a third of their nurses in the next year alone because they're fed up. My colleagues in the UK are extremely worried about the future for themselves.
Our 1,000 nurse members, their families and friends and supporters are looking for people who will commit to this in the next States of Deliberation. And we've listened for years about we'll kick the can down the road, we can't afford it this time, this has been a financial crisis, we can't do it now because we're going into the next election for the States of Deliberation, or we can't do it now because it's a new term for new deputies and you don't know anything, and they sort of blah it goes on and on for you.
I think, well, you're going to face the problem of a new term and perhaps a new intake. It depends how many sitting deputies are re-elected.
Can I just jump in and pose a question? So this pandemic, we've actually been really fortunate. It's actually not that fatal. There is absolutely nothing that's not going to say within the next 18 months we're going to have another one. If we don't appreciate our nurses now, we will not be future-proofing our island and our society. Yes. And I'd ask you to think about that. And then on that note, I'm going to have to ask you to move.
Do you want to go first this time, or so?
Yeah.
I went first last time.
Good evening, my name is Kenny Lloyd and I'm the convener for Royal College of Nursing. We're asking successful candidates a few key things, and we put them in a manifesto. The obvious one is pay equality and a review of terms and conditions. We want a commitment to appoint a new chief nurse. We want commitment to provide enough funds and strategic and operational capacity for key services in health, and we want commitment to introduce a regulatory framework. Our question to successful candidates: if successful in your election as deputy, how will you support Guernsey nurses to achieve pay parity and their wider manifesto in the next 4-year term of the States of Deliberation? Who would like to answer first?
Pay is an important issue. I did find it hard to believe that some unqualified civil servants are paid more than a qualified nurse. Obviously, there are multiple multiple projects that will be needing state's funding over the next 4 years. I think. Sorry, my mind's gone blank.
That's all right. Would you want to take over, Sarah?
Yes.
Come back to you.
Yes, I was at the last meeting. I have already signed up as a champion. Wearing my support. As I stated before, yes, I am in full support of the nurses. There should most certainly be equal pay. I have been looking up the facts and the figures, and the pay difference is quite ridiculous, really, to be honest. And so we do need to move forward, and we need to get round the table and discuss this like grown-ups, I'm afraid.
Can we get Jill to ask her question as well?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jill Dallin. I'm currently the president of the National Education Union here in Guernsey. I am not asking the obvious question about the school, secondary school model. I think most candidates have put something in their manifestos about that. Although I think it's fair to say that I think some candidates are assuming things with not so much evidence. But my question is actually going to be about 0 hours contracts, because some of our all our supply teachers are on 0 hours contracts. A lot of them are recently retired and do need the income because they have retired earlier than their normal retirement age. So with the COVID pandemic, obviously they lost a lot of work and lost a lot of income, but because they have some income, kind of fell through the cracks, as it were. So my question is, what policies would you support to address the issues faced by essential workers on 0 hours contracts, such as the supply teachers, who will be needed over the winter if staff have to stay at home due to the current COVID regulations?
you want to start, Simon?
No, would you?
Okay. This is quite a tricky one because being in the construction industry, my husband's a builder, where it is actually common standard practice to have zero contracts. We offer them one of each to our employees. Well, we haven't got any at the moment, but in the past we did, and they always took the higher zero contract, higher hourly rates, and taking the risk that there might come the point where they're not going to have any income. But for the teaching, I've also got young family members that have gone away to train and have come back to the island and then have had to do the 0 hours, be there for the beck and call waiting. But if they haven't got the luxury of being able to live at home, what are they going to live off? So if they go and get a job so that they can wait till something comes up, all of a sudden it all gets a mess, and then they either go off into a different career rather than sticking with their education.
And if you'd like to weigh in?
Yeah, sorry, it isn't an area that I know an awful lot about, but I'd like to learn more, and if you have any information, any statistics about how many employees this affects, I'd be happy to discuss it with you if I'm successful.
Right, thank you.
Lovely. We finished ahead of time. Do either of you have anything else to add?
This is a proud to be a nursing champion. I don't know how.
Start with you, Lisa. What would you do in the next States if you're successful in re-election to ensure that this was addressed in the next term?
Well, I guess if you'd have to bring a racket.
Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'd certainly be willing to do it. Yeah, because we need the discussion. We need that discussion. We need it in the States.
That's the sort of
and we
type
need
of
a
answer.
decision.
That's the sort of type of answer we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure you've seen in front of us, we're promoting to the nursing champions at the moment.
I have already started the nursing champions.
So would those of you who haven't signed like to take a copy and give that some deliberation, please? Thank you. Just got my return email on the back. Scan it back, please.
I know when I was a trainee carer, I got so demoralised because you're just not appreciated and not recognised. I resigned. I didn't see any other way to do it because I did work both in England and in Guernsey as a trainee carer, and it's no different in either jurisdiction. You're not valued, you're not appreciated. You just think what's the point? So you really do need to. We need to start valuing nurses and
We
carers.
are in a tight timetable, so
Sorry,
I believe our questions have been answered. I don't know whether, Jill, did you want to ask anything?
Yeah, I haven't read my.
Oh, you haven't read yours?
I don't think we've got time for huge introductions because we've got
yourself?
5 minutes in total. So if you've got a question.
Would you?
My question doesn't make sense if I don't read.
Would you consider entering nursing as a career?
Okay.
We are unequivocal in our determination to achieve that. A review of nurses' terms and conditions using the roles report as a template for that review. We need to eliminate the current inequality in pay experienced by local nurses in comparison to other public sector workers within a 3-year period during the next state's term of office. This has been kicked down the line for too long, decades we are talking. An immediate commitment to recruit and appoint a chief nurse, as recommended by the Nursing and Midwifery Council's extraordinary review in 2014. We lost our chief nurse earlier this year, and she has not been replaced. Nursing must be promoted as an attractive career with adequate funding for nurse education and continual professional development. Provision strategically and operationally to accommodate the increasing needs for mental health, learning disability, community and elderly care services. Guernsey must continue to develop and introduce a regulatory framework as approved by the States in 2019 to ensure high quality, safe health and social care provision in Guernsey. if successful in your election as a deputy, how will you support Guernsey nurses to achieve pay parity and their wider manifesto in the next four-year term of the States of Deliberation?
Can you just clarification on the issue of parity? When you say parity for nurses, do you mean the leaders, the supervisors and the people in authority have a wage freeze, salary freeze, while the nurses have an increase?
No.
Can you clarify that, please?
That is not for us to tell you how to achieve that. Yeah, that is for the state's P&R to achieve that.
I think Leicester means within nursing. Do you?
Do you
The
mean
grades
within nursing?
That's not what we're talking about.
Okay, we are actually running out of time, so rather than debate parity, if we could have a quick 1 minute from each of you, because
Can I give an answer?
So yeah. Okay. I'm going to run with. I appreciate that, but I do what you guys.
Are we talking about the ones
We can speak after if you want, or take down details.
Parity with the other civil service
Yes.
workers.
Yes.
Public sector workers.
Public sector
Yeah.
workers.
So everyone in nursing, whatever
The gap for the lowest nurses is 63% between like-for-like workers.
Okay.
The top gap is about 20%. States of Guernsey, Kojima figures indicate average of 24% gap between like-for-like workers. Sorry, next.
I understand what you're saying, seeking parity, but actually I'll take a simpler view. I think you're underpaid. I think, if you like, the states as a whole has got to consider what is the right level to pay nurses, to attract them here, to keep them here, so that we use fewer of the bank nurses, which costs an absolute fortune. That's a simple answer.
very quickly.
I think there's got to be clear benefits in achieving parity. I mean, one of the main things that we need to look at the improvement that we get in things like recruitment, retention, and reduction in agency costs if we paid our nurses fairly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's very much reliant on professional skilled performers giving away their talents for free. We should be happy to turn up and do what we do, but we're trying to run businesses, trying to make it our actual income, and especially for young people to look at it as a job development. So our question to you is, what value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and the social development of the work?
I think it's a massive part of the post-COVID events like that. We were the only place in the British Isles that were actually organising these events. So I really value the arts over here.
I'm going to give a slightly unpopular opinion. Because of the nature of the island and the events that go on, I think it's a small economic enabler, because we're trying to attract international business, and arts are going to be limited. And now there's some things on the tourist side we can do, but definitely on the social side of things, it's huge. I think it's hugely important to our society. So to encourage it.
I always support the arts in all its aspects: music, art, drama, sports, which is a kind of art, although it is a separate commission, of course, and has more money than the arts, which I've never understood. The need for a centre is very important, and I still would like to see the information centre to be the arts centre, personally. I think it's totally wrong to consider there should be a boutique hotel there. It's just daft. So either an arts centre or the Victor Hugo Centre, one of those two, because they both have a very important place to play in the culture of these islands, and they do encourage people to come and see various things. We've got Renoir, we've got that coming up again now. We have other people, Capan, Naftal, all those artists who have made such an important life for Guernsey, and we need to support it somehow. So we need to have more money for the Arts Commission.
Is very much reliant on people volunteering their skills, and that we should be grateful for just turning up and being allowed to perform or paint or create. But actually we're trying to raise the expectation that we're professionals, we should be paid, and we need to have this as an industry. So our question to you, is what value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and social development of the Bailiwick?
Well, me, I'll go first if you want. I'll go quickly. I've always supported the arts, been a member of the States Arts Committee in the old days, and the Arts Council and different groups. I think arts are useful for therapy, for mental health, for all kinds of things. I'm sorry I missed a big arts opening in the markets the other day, but you know, you get muddled with candidates at the moment. But the point was you had 61 fine artists. 61. And you know, you ask a statistician what are the traditional industries of Guernsey, and you always get the obvious answers: horticulture, agriculture, and fishing. I would argue that there's far more people earning a full-time or part-time living in the creative and other arts than people realise, and it's very much a part of what makes Guernsey special, and we punch above our weight in arts as we do in sports.
This is a bit off the cuff for me, so I'm thinking now, but I would imagine you could generate arts-based holidays, you know, like a sort of communes where you had a place for artists to actually come over and spend time, especially with students, if you had them taking time out from university or something, if they're on that relevant sort of course. So if you, I mean, there's a lot of thinking about it. There's a lot of, I won't say derelict, but abandoned hotels that really would be going for a song. That you could use for that. It's not the Saints Bay one, it's the one around the corner from there. I walked past it the other day where there's a Renoir frame. Bomport, yeah, that springs to mind because it's sort of sitting there doing nothing. And it would make quite a good, not a commune, because that's more of a sort of 60s.
Like living in a commune makes you think.
You could get a lot of artistic stuff in there, you know, pottery, you can get
therapy centres,
all sorts of things. You've even got a swimming pool, which might take a bit of upgrading, but it's a thought.
Arts and tourism.
But the thing,
yes,
the problem is, would that be estates funded?
Well, I think what you could do, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, you'd have to find a suitable building, and the States have got an overabundance of used buildings. Fort Marshall, not Fort Marshall, Fort Richmond would have been a good one, but of course that's sort of disappeared.
We lost it.
That would have been an excellent one, because, you know, it's quite a good layout, but that's gone. But they own a lot of other places that could be used, so it wouldn't necessarily be an abandoned hotel, it could be, it's got quite a good location.
Can we get Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Adrian in terms of using derelict buildings, especially state-owned. I think something needs to be done. I know that it was in the pipeline about the museum, the mass museum that I think was going to be held by the Guernsey Visitor Centre in town. I'm not sure where that's at. I've heard nothing about it, so I'm presuming it's not going anywhere. That is something that I think should definitely be supported without a shadow of a doubt. In terms of, my background is more into mental health and that sort of thing. Without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, there's clear evidence now. I mean, people questioned it, I know, a couple of years ago, but clear evidence in which therapeutic arts and those sorts of things really do help people. And those people who it helps, they'll then be able to contribute positively to society. Interestingly, another thing that I'd like to touch on is prison rehabilitation. So there's a lot of people in prison, when they're coming out of prison, they've been given that push to look at their artistic creativity, their tendencies, and even in Guildhall Library recently they've had some really good pictures from ex-convicts who have gone on and now integrated into society. So that is something to definitely look into as well, maybe promote it even further. But it's good that we've got, because Guernsey is such a beautiful place, especially in the summer, we've got an abundance of wildlife, scenery, that sort of thing, that people can just go out and do by themselves, which will then indirectly contribute to the arts community.
It's a bit fragmented at the moment. I mean, yes, I like doing the aesthetics and the music, but to give an example, building on what you were saying, I remember Deputy Parkinson as Economic Development had a vague plan to take on the old income tax office and make it into Hugo Centre. That's not the most attractive thing in the world, although it was used for the photography festival. And yet that flopped because of political resistance. And then I really genuinely believe, because of the enthusiasm, Kevin's alluded to it, that David Ummells and others were really going to get somewhere with what used to be an art gallery at the Tourist Board office. And it all flopped, and now the latest is it is a hotel, which strikes me as not probable. And there just isn't. I mean, we lost culture and leisure. I sat on the board for a while. I don't think it quite stamped its weight enough. I think it needed to integrate tourism and other elements, and it failed to do that. But there's a real danger, much as there are synergies with education in terms of careers and schools and maybe university, there's a real danger if education is cut that the arts will be the one who get the job.
Yeah, but it,
That's
no, I
the arts scene here is very much reliant on people giving away their skills and their time for free, because it's something that we should just be happy that we're allowed to perform or paint or draw or do whatever it is we do, but we're trying to run a business and earn our own living as creatives. So our question to you, I've got to read, is what value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and social development of the Beijing?
I can start. Well, I was part of the Guernsey curriculum design team who worked with David Ummells for the Arts in School program, which we brought him in, so I would strongly believe in that.
Fantastic project.
And fantastic project. I think sometimes also with the arts we tend to forget that within that holistic umbrella is that in terms of well-being, and it's having that surrounded community that needs to be together, but I think they are strong drivers for people to, for the government to just highlight the importance of it and how it's important in striking that balance into the well-being aspects. And I think with this, there is an element that needs to go into, I suppose, advertising and promoting or facilitating potentially initiatives through maybe, I don't know, legislation flexibilities. I don't know, I'm not aware about the particulars because it's not something I've done before, I've got to be honest, but I'm happy to learn.
Health, wellbeing, economy. Now, Ross and I, we met when I was on economic development, and one of the things that I was very interested in doing was getting the sports commission as a whole to get all of that together, to have actually a sports strategy. We've just done Activate, next one is art strategy. We've got to get all of this together because it's ridiculous. Money from economic development, and yet we're health and social care, we're doing the wellbeing piece, education, sport and culture doing something, and what on earth are we doing? We need to get it all together in a single art strategy, akin to the sports strategy. I think it's quite good, and start using the money because it does bring money into the economy. We've seen it. I mean, it's fantastic. David Ummells, as you just mentioned, I'm glad you said that, DM, because I couldn't remember his name. I remembered his surname, but I mean, Renoir. I mean, we can't wait to see. Well, it's here, isn't it? Yeah, and all of those sorts of things. We've just on GPA, there's the cottage. We've just put it that as a protected building, which means we can, the actual owners will now progress with that. It's public knowledge, so that's fine. I can say that. But the point is, it's all that picture of literally. I like that pun. Picture of Guernsey that actually we've got so much to offer, and arts is just one of them. And I mean, Vale Earth there. Good on you. That was a success, wasn't it? I mean, what a way to sell our island, the economy, and we're getting investment through your event, going worldwide. We're getting all of the interest. And then Renoir, that's on TV. I mean, we've got so much to do. We've got to do it now. Capture it. Art strategy.
Yeah, for me, it's really important. It's right up there. It's a key part of mental health and well-being. You know, we've been cooped up for months. Some people have no kind of contact with the outside work. Whether they've got disability, big disability, or just in general good health. So it's really important that we do support it and celebrate it as well.
Yeah, super important. I think one of the things that really resonated with me in lockdown was how it was, right, just don't worry about anything, but do something creative or get outside. So exercise and arts were at the top, of our priority list, and yet they're often the most underfunded or the first thing that's pulled. So I think we really need to capitalise on that. Now that kind of people have maybe seen it as more of a priority. And I also think it's something that could be tied into our tourism as well. We've got so much heritage and culture here. We're not attracting people that want to go on a Mediterranean cheap package. We need to be going for those demographics where it's a bit more of an interest-based holiday. So, nature's one thing, but our arts and culture and our heritage is absolutely another.
Yeah, I think, yes, it's very important, especially for our children. You never know, the earlier you start a child in theatre or some form of arts, you don't know where it's going to go. It's like lighting a fire, and if you're lucky enough to light the fire, you may not see the result for 10 years, but of course you should light it, absolutely. All the kids particularly. Very important.
I think what we struggle with. So, as we said, the art scene here is heavily reliant on people. The assumption that artists are happy to give away their skills for free and volunteer and just turn up because it's something that we're passionate about. But our question to you is, what value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and social development of Ladwick?
Yeah, I mean, I was a big supporter, of arts and sports, and I feel a little bit sad that this term, that education has taken such a key role in what it was meant to be, education, sport and culture. And for me, as I said, I was in the States between 2012 and 2016, and when we left government in 2016, we actually returned to a surplus budget, having started with a deficit of 32 million in 2012. So actually this state have actually had some extra money. As we know, they've sort of filtered it into capital pot, which is still there, 300 million quid not spent. And actually if it wasn't going to spend on capital, some of that could have remained in the general revenue pot, and actually drip fed to health and services. I think the third sector, charity, have really been struggling since the crash in 2008. A lot of people have been really struggling to get that external funding in to do very much more. So you're absolutely right. The states sort of view the arts that, everyone can volunteer and everyone can do that. But it's so important. We are a small island for people's mental well-being to get involved in activities. As I said, I'm very much pro-sport, but if you look at the island, we are struggling. We don't have flumes. When I was a kid, I used to go to Beaujon and go to the flumes, 10-pin bowling, stuff like that. So actually, the investment we put into arts and sports and culture, it returns at 10 times value. It's that phrase, preventative spend, that we spend some money now, it will actually stop people falling into the system later on in life that could actually help. So, sorry, that was a long answer to your question, but for me, as I said, it's a real shame that the Education, Sport and Culture Committee didn't allocate one of their members as an art champion or culture champion. It was very much under the umbrella that Matt was really doing everything in sport and this and this and this. So it's a real shame from that perspective, but I do think that something needs to happen, and I think through COVID, I think everyone's realised that the importance of health and mental well-being have really been brought to the forefront, and actually it's guys like you that kind of keep these things going, but actually we should be able to help a little bit more. I've always been annoyed that the viewpoint of the lottery money goes towards beau jour, where the state should actually say, look, I ain't got a problem with spending £800,000 supporting a health centre for people to go and do exercise, and actually then that means that 800,000 that has gone through lottery is actually there available through through the mechanism to go into your bodies and actually say, yes, people are gambling, yes, there's aggression there should be a little bit more support for people, but like someone like me, it's Christmas time, I'm happy to spend £100, £200 because I know those funds go into the pockets that actually will make a difference to the charities and the arts and sports and whatnot to make a difference.
And I think it's really interesting.
Scene is predominantly propped up by professionals giving away their skills for free as a volunteer. It's expected that because we're passionate about it, we love it, that it's a hobby, and therefore we should be grateful for the opportunity just to perform or create something. Whereas we're trying to run a business and we're trying to be economically savvy. So our question to you is, what value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and social development for the bailiwick?
Very good question.
I think.
Give me to repeat it.
No, I think it helps raise community well-being, seeing artwork. I mean, I quite like looking at graffiti and stuff. But I don't know if that's the sort of stuff that you guys work on. But I think there's some good artists over here, like Tom Mellenroe and that. So I think,
Yeah, that's a great in town. That's a fantastic piece. It's just done.
So I think it is important that you do have bits and pieces popping up, maybe a graph wall and that, but how you fund it, funds are tight everywhere, so it's a difficult one. I know the VLF are going to want funding as well. I mean, I'm quite involved with drum and bass and stuff, so it's just trying to find the cash really.
That's your job.
Yeah, difficult one. Where you make cutbacks, though. That's where you make cutbacks to find it. It's going to be a difficult term the next term. But I do support what you guys are saying. It's just going to be a case of the charity fund hide it.
Keep on, that was going to be me, Craig. Two things I can see. I mean, we've got our arts coordinator. I don't know what Lottie's called.
Lottie Barnes.
Yeah, what a full name title is, but absolutely fantastic work she's doing. I mean, it's really good. I mean, we fund that, of course, so that's what the States is supporting her. That's made such a difference. I mean, all the stuff she's done around our estate and really made people. It's all worked with improving health at the same time. It's absolutely, and I'm a creative in my nature, and it's something I really like. I think things like we can do more from like the literary festival and how it's done and the way. And I know it's a hell of a lot of work that they've done to get that, but if we could do more, so Guernsey as a destination to me. I know we can't do it right now, but that surely is something we should be playing to that part of Guernsey that is now, as opposed to attracting people for just Guernsey's past. So I linked that with our tourism with nature, conservation, the environment, and really showcasing what Guernsey's great about the people and its environment. And just it's a shift on that tourist offering. I know it sounds a bit like you're not tourism, but I do think that's...
No, I totally agree with you. If you look at our festivals, you talked about the Literary Festival, there's a photography festival, there's the Violet Fair, there's Chaos, there's the Victor Hugo Seminar.
Wouldn't people have loved to come here for all that this year?
Well, they could, if we return to something normal, there's an opportunity.
Can we give Andy a chance to answer?
Yeah, sorry, Andy.
Sorry, he was off last time. So
coming back to the question in terms of economic recovery, I can't see how it would play a big part in an economic recovery. I suppose from the social side, it's a very therapeutic area. So actually anyone who might be unemployed, they could be encouraged into, instead of not having anything to do, if there was a facility there, it might be a way of kind of allocating funding. Not to just keep people busy, I don't want to play it down, but that could be really nice. In terms of funding though, I suppose actually touching on tourism, there are so many creative people on the island, yet we have a really uncreative tourism offering in terms of our marketing. The actual tourism offering from the private individuals is really good, but we consistently see reduced growth forecasts. And I think actually if we let some people who actually have like the minds and the love of Guernsey to take that over, I think that would be a cracking way of funding it, and for the benefit of tourism.
Yeah, I think there's a big part of in Guernsey especially has been, is heavily relies on volunteers, and this idea that we should give away our skills for free and that it's a hobby, therefore we should be just grateful that we're allowed to do what we do. And we are passionate about trying to get it professionally, properly funded so we can professionally pay for goods. So our question to you, sorry I've got to read it. What value do you place in the arts as part of the economic recovery and social development of the Maniac?
Very high.
Good.
I think it's underfunded. I would like to see a strategy for art, like we've just had strategy for nature. So I think it's overdue, and I hope we can really make a progress on that front. So I would like this to become much more professional industry, so people can sustain their lives and run, businesses and hobbies on a kind of professional, sustainable level, basically.
I've got massive support for the arts. As like I'm a poet, and I love to do stuff professionally, but also I think more so for me, it's the like social benefit of art and the way that it can benefit our lives. But the way it's benefited my life, I think it's just such a huge impact in terms of well-being can be gotten through involvement in the arts, particularly in the community sense. So I do think we need to improve that funding and I think it would be good to, obviously we want to make sure we have professionals, but we need to make sure we're, for me, funding it in a way we can get community involved in the best way, because I think that there are so many creative people that don't get that time doing art that they need to be doing to be themselves and be happy. And I think we've got a massive kind of well-being hole at the moment where we're really struggling to actually keep everyone healthy, and because mental health and physical health come hand in hand. I feel like the arts is a really good way of spending some money that might actually help us save money in the long run. So I'm very hopeful that we can set up maybe through a strategy arts like Sasha said or something, a way that we can actually facilitate that kind of community growth through the use of art and hopefully get a few more people involved and